Fight Block, subscribe, check out the Twitter, check out the blog. Links are in the description box. UFC 128 is live March 19th. Main event, Shogun Rua defends his UFC light heavyweight title against Jon Jones. It's going to be an awesome pay-per-view. It's a great card. So I'm going to give a quick rundown on my the main card predictions and start off briefly by talking about an undercard fight that I'm really looking forward to. Hopefully it's broadcasted. I don't know if it's going to be aired on Facebook or somewhere else, but Edson Barboza takes on Anthony Njokuani. I'm going to give a quick overview of that fight. With that being said, let's get started. Anthony Njokuani, he's coming over from the WEC. He's 14-4. Both him and Edson Barboza, they're both knockout artists. This is going to be a stand-up war. Njokuani, he's a Muay Thai fighter. Barboza made his UFC debut in his last fight, just destroying his opponent with leg kicks. Forced his opponent to quit in the third round because he couldn't even stand up anymore. Barboza against Njokuani, it's sure to be fireworks. Both guys are going to be looking for the knockout, looking for the finish. I hope they broadcast this fight like I said, but I'm really looking forward to this fight. My prediction is Barboza defeats Njokuani by TKO round 2. This is going to be, like I said, a stand-up war and potentially could be fight of the night. The first fight on the broadcasted card, Mirko Cro Cop takes on Brendan Schaub. Cro Cop, he's coming off that knockout loss to Frank Mir. Horrible, horrible fight. Then gets KO'd in the third round. Was not impressed at all. Before that fight, Cro Cop took on Pat Barry, and that was a weird fight, but he worked a submission and forced Barry to tap. Brendan Schaub, he's coming off a unanimous decision over Gabriel Gonzaga. Before that, he had TKO wins over Chris Tucher and Chase Gormley. Schaub, he lost in the Ultimate Fighter Season 10 finale to Big Country Nelson. But he looks like he's continuing to improve. He's got heavy hands. He's got knockout power. You know, I haven't been impressed with Cro Cop since he made his UFC debut. I mean, he really hasn't had a vintage Cro Cop fight yet. You know, I really think Cro Cop's at the end of his career, and I'm taking Brendan Schaub by finish. I think he's going to TKO Cro Cop third round. I believe Cro Cop's going to come out. He's going to be a little hesitant, like usual, to throw anything. If Brendan Schaub pushes the action and throws those powerful punches that he's got, I think one of those will connect and knock Cro Cop down, and Schaub will pound on him and get the finish. So Brendan Schaub, TKO, round 3. The next fight, Nate the Great Marquardt takes on Yoshihiro Akiyama, a.k.a. Sexyama. You know, it's really tough for me to call this fight because I don't know what kind of game plan either one of these guys are going to come in with. Akiyama, he's got a great judo background, but we really haven't seen him utilize it all that much in the UFC. So, I mean, he could attempt to take down Marquardt with his judo. I mean, we saw Chael Sonnen destroy Marquardt using his wrestling and just beat him up on the ground. With that being said, Marquardt does have a background in jiu-jitsu. He's got some great submissions, so I'm not sure if Akiyama wants to try and put or take this fight to the ground. Marquardt, he's been working on his wrestling since the Sonnen fight. He might attempt some takedowns, try and put Akiyama on his back, work some ground and pound, go for a submission. I'm going to have to guess that this fight is mostly going to take place on the feet. Both these guys, they have solid stand-up. Akiyama has won Fight of the Night 3 fights in a row, although he's lost his last 2 fights, including a submission loss to Chris Lieben in the third round and a tough decision loss to Michael Bisping. So this is a must-win fight for Akiyama. We all know 3 losses in the UFC. Doesn't look good. Nate Marquardt, he's coming off a tough loss to Yushin Okami. But he's fighting out of Greg Jackson's camp, so I got to imagine they've been doing some studying on Akiyama. And Marquardt will come in with some sort of game plan. Whether it works or not, we'll see. I think these quote-unquote game plans that Greg Jackson comes up with is actually restricting Marquardt's potential. I mean, Marquardt a lot of times he really hasn't gone out and just fought. He has a ton of potential. He's got some great submissions. His striking is solid. But to quote Dana White, he just quote unquote chokes in the when the big fight's on the line. With that being said, I'm taking Nate Marquardt to eke out a split decision over Akiyama. I think this is going to be a really close fight. It's going to be a technical fight. And I really, like I said, it's tough to call what kind of game plan each guy's going to come out with, whether this fight's going to remain standing or someone's going to try and take it to the ground. It's going to be an interesting fight. I'm really looking forward to it. It's a great matchup. But Nate Marquardt, split decision. In the third televised fight, we got a lightweight matchup between Jim Miller and Kamal Shalaruz. This is going to be an awesome, awesome fight. A lot of people are unfamiliar with Kamal Shalaruz. He's coming over from the WEC. This guy is a beast. He's got a great stand-up. He's got solid wrestling. He's got some jiu-jitsu. But this is going to be a great fight. Jim Miller, he's 8-1 in the UFC. His only loss came at the hands of Gray Maynard at UFC 96. That was back in March 2009. Since then, he's won his last 6 fights in a row. With his last win came by impressive submission over up-and-coming star Charles Oliveira. Caught Oliveira in a knee bar in the first round. Very impressive. But this is going to be a great matchup. A lot of people think UFC is just throwing some weak fighter at Jim Miller and he deserves more, but Kamal Shalaruz, he's no joke. For the most part, I see this fight taking place on the feet. Both these guys are quality wrestlers, but I see that kind of canceling out, and we'll see both these guys stand and trade. Like I said, Shalaruz, he's got great kicks. Jim Miller, he can mix it up. He's got solid boxing. My pick in this fight, if Jim Miller is able to wrestle this to the ground, he could potentially slap on a submission, but I see this fight going to the judges, and I'm going to give the experience advantage to Jim Miller. He's on a 6-fight win streak, like I said. He's right there in the title hunt. This is a big fight for him. Kamal Shalaruz, he's going to bring it. He's going to surprise a lot of people, but my pick is Jim Miller by unanimous decision. In the co-main event, the California Kid Uriah Faber takes on Eddie Wineland. Both these guys are making their UFC debut coming over from the WEC. This will only be the second fight for Uriah Faber in the bantamweight division. He's coming off an impressive first-round submission victory over Takeya Matsugaki, put him to sleep. Eddie Wineland, he's won his last 4 fights in the WEC, including an impressive KO slam that happened at WEC 53, their last event on the undercard fight. So it's difficult to actually find that fight, but boom. That link right there, if you click it, that's a GIF of the slam. Pretty brutal. Sent his opponent to the hospital immediately. But pretty awesome knockout slam. With that being said, both these guys are wrestlers, and I'm going to give the speed advantage to Uriah Faber. I think he'll land more shots on the feet. However, I see this fight eventually going to the ground, and I'm taking Uriah Faber by submission. I think he'll catch Wineland in a choke. Faber's got a great guillotine. His grappling is solid. So with that being said, I'm taking Uriah Faber over Eddie Wineland by submission in the 3rd round. This is going to be a great fight, and it's got title implications too. So if should Faber win, he'll probably get a shot at bantamweight champion Dominic Cruz. I can't say the same for Wineland. If Wineland wins, I wouldn't be surprised if UFC gave him Brian Bowles, and then the winner of that fight got a shot at Dominic Cruz. That being said, I think Uriah Faber is going to pull this one out by submission, 3rd round. In the main event of the evening, champion Mauricio Shogun Rua takes on challenger Jon Jones for the UFC light heavyweight title. This fight was originally supposed to be Shogun Rua against Rashad Evans. The fight was actually announced almost a year ago after Shogun defeated Machida. But unfortunately, Shogun hurt his knee in that fight and had to undergo surgery. And Rashad Evans opted to wait for the title fight rather than take another fight in between. And then just a couple weeks leading up to this pay-per-view fight at 128, Rashad Evans had to pull out with a knee injury also. So it's just been an unfortunate situation, but I'm sure this fight Rashad Evans against Shogun will eventually happen sometime. Whether it's for the title or not, we'll see. But the new matchup, Shogun Rua takes on Jon Jones, who is also a fellow camp member of Rashad Evans. And so he's been helping Rashad prepare for this fight. And now that he was granted the opportunity to challenge for the title after his defeat of Ryan Bader at UFC 126. Joe Rogan actually came out after that fight and announced that Dana White had granted him the opportunity, and Jon Jones accepted. Shogun has been out for a year, so it remains to be seen whether or not he'll be rusty. Jon Jones, he's been given in his last couple fights step-ups in competition. He's met all those challenges and looked very impressive. With that being said, we really haven't seen Jon Jones' chin tested. We haven't really seen him stand with someone who has elite striking like Shogun does. So this is a dangerous matchup. It's a very large step up in competition from Ryan Bader and from all his other fights. But I think Jon Jones is ready. Shogun, like I said, it's been off for a year. I think a lot of this fight just depends on how in shape Shogun comes into this fight. We've seen Shogun when he made his UFC debut against Forrest was out of shape. Really didn't look all that impressive against Mark Coleman. But then he went on that run, knocking out Chuck Liddell. But who didn't knock out Chuck Liddell? So really, he looked impressive in his two fights against Machida, and it looked like the old Shogun was back. And whether or not he's able to come off of this recent knee surgery and be the old Shogun remains to be seen. With that being said, my pick is Jon Jones. I think he's got the strength, the size, and reach advantage. It's going to be tough for Shogun to get in tight and get that Muay Thai clinch. Jon Jones will utilize that reach to keep the distance. And even if they do clinch up, Jones has got great takedowns and has the strength to take this fight to the ground. And that's where I think this fight is going to be finished. I'm taking Jon Jones by third round TKO. Shogun, he's never been finished before by TKO. This is going to be the first time in his career, I think. That being said, Shogun, he is dangerous. You can't count him out. He is the champion. And if he does win this fight, I see him winning by a knee bar submission. I see him sneaking out a victory. I still think Jon Jones, he's gonna control this fight. But if Shogun does win, it's gonna be by knee bar. But not gonna happen. I'm taking Jon Jones, TKO, round 3. We're gonna have a new champion, and I don't want to jinx it because Joe Rogan did that for Machida when he announced the Machida era was upon us. But if Jon Jones wins this fight, the Jon Jones era is upon us. So that wraps up my UFC 128 predictions. This was the Fight Block. Subscribe. Check out the Twitter and the blog in the description box down below. Just a quick side note, I read that starting at UFC 129, pay-per-views will now be an hour earlier, and it looks like every pay-per-view after that is going to follow the same pattern. So 6 o'clock on the West Coast, 9 o'clock on the East Coast. That's starting UFC 129. Subscribe. Thanks for listening. Peace.